Greetings, WCN. These are unprecedented days, and I want you to know that I have been in deep prayer over the last few days, as have our staff and board and leadership of the church. We've had some difficult decisions to make that have been bathed in prayer and consultation, thinking through the big picture of church in these days and what a comprehensive response might look like. We've had to factor in a number of things when it comes to the decisions that we're making. We're factoring in, first and foremost, safety of vulnerable people among us. We're factoring in recommendations from the CDC and the White House coronavirus task force. We're factoring in our determination, our conviction to worship our God, whatever the circumstances. We're also factoring in our understanding of what church is. We're factoring in the fact that we are not people who react in fear, but we are people who respond with love. We have been directed by our district superintendent and our board of general superintendents to comply with local, state, and federal authorities and to err on the side of caution with whatever decisions that we make. Before I share some conclusions with you, I want you to know the level of difficulty of this decision-making process. And not everybody is going to agree whatever decision is made. And I want you to know that I need grace and our leadership needs grace. And in a time like this, we all need to extend grace to one another. I want you to know that we are staying in touch with vulnerable people among us. Pastor Janice is leading the way with contacts of those who might be vulnerable to assess whatever needs they might have. Catherine is working on assembling a response team to help those vulnerable people deliver medicine or food or other necessary items or whatever needs they might have. Our church is partnering with local schools, feeding kids on weekdays, and we're going to be distributing fuel bags at the schools on a weekly basis. Our fuel team is going to be engaged in that starting next week. We're also reaching out to those who might be immediately economically affected in these days to see how we can come alongside of them and help them. We have made the difficult decision to suspend all on-site gatherings at WCN's campus at 619 East Main Street through the end of March. That includes gathering for worship on site. We will still gather each Sunday morning, however, for worship on Facebook Live at 10 o'clock, and we encourage everybody to participate. I want to be clear about something. We are not closing the church, and we are not canceling worship. The church is not a place. Once we close the doors, the church is not closed. The church is the people. We will still continue to be the church. We will still continue to do the work of the church. And maybe we will be even more faithful and effective given our circumstances when it comes to us being the church God wants us to be. And worship is going to continue. We will still gather together. We will still assemble. We're going to do it virtually. It's not going to be the same. It will be different, but we still will worship. The early church faced a crisis, the crisis of Roman persecution. How did they respond? They did not quit church. Instead, they suspended their large public gatherings and they worshiped in homes, and they thrived. In the very same way, during this public health crisis, we're taking a very similar approach. We're not quitting church. We're transitioning from our large public gatherings to meet via video in homes. One of my friends, Pastor Justin Warren of Griffin's Chapel Church of the Nazarene, said to me just a couple of days ago, teaching families to worship in homes may be the church's finest hour. That would be beautiful if that could be a great outcome of this situation. What if a new format, given the new reality that we live in, What if a new format provides fresh, exciting opportunities for us to be the church in new ways, to thrive in ways that we might not otherwise thrive? Speaking of the early church, their main focus during their time of crisis was not what will happen to me. Their main concern was, how will we be the church in these days given these circumstances? And I want to pose the very same question to us. The question is not what will happen to us, but how do we get to be the church in these days? I want to be clear that the decisions that we're making are not based on fear. We're not giving in. We're not letting the media win. We're not compromising our values. What we're doing is taking precautions as we have been advised by authorities. And we're doing so out of love for those among us and around us who are most vulnerable. This is not decision making based on fear. This is decision making based on love. So for March the 22nd and March the 29th, we'll be gathering virtually at 10 o'clock, one service on each of those days, Facebook Live. The service will also be recorded and uploaded to YouTube, and the audio uploaded to our church's website. In addition, Pastor Mary is going to record video messages directly to our children, and she's going to distribute those to parents to share with children. I want to remind you that giving is important. We won't be passing the plates for the next 2 weeks. You can go through our church app, you can go to wcntn.com, or you can mail your tithe to 619 East Main Street in Waverly. If you need any assistance with technology for either viewing our services or giving online, please contact the church office and we'll be glad to help you. We're going to reassess the situation at the end of March, and we will take further actions from there. Some of us have engaged in mission trips together in various places around the world. And every time we go on a mission trip, we talk about the two most important qualities are flexibility and unity. And at every cost, we work hard to maintain flexibility and unity. These days have a little bit of a mission trip kind of feel to them. And I encourage you to engage it and approach it as such. Think unity in spite of the challenges. Think flexibility, as we all need to adapt to do our best to be the church in these days. I encourage you to join me in prayer, to engage in worship, and to continue being the church for one another and for others. Call, engage, contact, message, reach out to others around you. And let's anticipate. Historically, in times of crisis, the church has thrived. In fact, the church has thrived more in times of crisis than when things go our way. So let us eagerly anticipate the great things that God will do in these days.